Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our special meeting this evening. It is currently 5:05 p.m. on Monday, September 13th. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Bolton.
Good evening.
Commissioner Gallen.
Good evening.
Vice Mayor Villalobos.
Good evening, everyone.
Commissioner Placco.
Good evening.
And Mayor Gomez.
Good evening. If everyone would please stand, Vice Mayor Villalobos will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. This meeting is a little bit more scripted than our meetings typically are, so if you would please bear with us as we go through proper procedure for this. So as I mentioned, this is a special meeting of the City Commission of the City of Tamarac to hold public hearings on annual fire assessment, annual stormwater utility management fee assessment, the annual solid waste collection services assessment, the nuisance abatement assessment, and the setting of the tentative millage rate and the tentative city budget for fiscal year 2022. These public hearings are the culmination of an entire year's work by the City Commission, the City Manager, and staff. For the benefit of the public tonight, the City Commission held workshops throughout the year, as well as a budget workshop on July 7, 2022, to provide direction to the staff on the submittal. I would like to thank my colleagues on the dais for their participation at the workshops and for their suggestions as we deliberated on staff recommendations. So we're about ready to begin. We have temporary resolution 13657. Madam Interim City Manager, please read your statement.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Tamarac has used the fire rescue assessment since 1997 to provide specific funding for the purpose of providing fire rescue services in the City of Tamarac. As the City Commission is aware, the fire rescue assessment has been determined to be an equitable and efficient methodology to use in apportioning the cost of fire rescue services to improved properties, thus reducing the overall burden on the ad valorem tax rate. The residential rate for fiscal year 2022 will remain at $350 per dwelling unit with no change from last year. The city conducted a study on the fire rescue assessment in 2016, and based upon calls for service and a 5-year budget forecast for the cost of providing rescue services, staff recommends the City Commission approve the rates that have been proposed and approved for publication at the July 14th, 2021 preliminary fire assessment rate hearing and subsequently advertised for public hearing on August 15th, 2021. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please read the title to the resolution.
Yes, Madam Mayor and members of the Commission. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Tamarac, Florida, relating to the provision of fire rescue services, facilities, and programs in the City of Tamarac, Florida, reimposing fire rescue assessments against assessed property located within the City of Tamarac for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2021, approving the rate of assessment, approving the assessment rule, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Thank you. We will hear a short presentation from the Financial Services Director, Ms. Kajust.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Commission. Christine Kajust, the Director of Financial Services. With me today is Jeff Streeter, our Budget Manager, as well as Budget Analyst Melissa Taylor and Michael Gressick. The City utilizes the TRIN notice. Per Broward County, we could not schedule the public hearing on before September 12th. The final adopted resolution will be accepted by Broward County, sent before midnight on September 15th, which is this Wednesday. TR 13657 sets the fire assessment rates for fiscal year 2022. Fire assessment rates were established on July 14th, 2021, and published by a TRIM on August 12, 2021, advertised in the Sun Sentinel on August 15th, 2021, and established the final fire assessment rate. The recommended rate is $350 per residential unit This is the same rate that has been used for the last 5 years. This will result in net assessment of approximately $14 million after exempt buy-down and provides approximately 98.4% of the cost of services, which is approximately 51% of the fire department's budget. Here is a tabulation of the rates, which is $350 per residential unit with the different tiers for commercial, industrial, and institutional. And that ends my presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions from the commission, so I will open this up for public hearing on temporary resolution number 13657. I know I have a sheet here where 2 people have signed up to speak, but I'm not sure for which item. So I'll just, I'll take that back. One has item number 6. Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. And I'll entertain a motion on temporary resolution number 13657. Okay.
I buzzed in. Do you want me to just,
Pardon?
I buzzed in. I buzzed in. Do you want me to just?
Yeah, for the motion, go ahead.
Okay. I make a motion to adopt temporary resolution number 13657, establishing the fire service assessment rates for fiscal year 2022.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, City Clerk? Oh, sorry, I did not see. Commissioner Gallen?
What is the rate for 2021 and for 2022 of the fee?
Commissioner Gallen?
Commissioner Gillen, the rates are unchanged.
Okay.
It's the same rate that we had last year that we're reimposing this year.
Thank you. Just wanted to have that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask a favor, if you would, just next time, put it closer because it's hard to hear you. Thank you. No other further questions from the commission? Please call the roll.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Commissioner Gellan.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Villalobos.
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton.
Yes.
And Commissioner Placco.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you. Temporary Resolution 13658. Madam Interim City Manager, please read your statement.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Tamarac has been using a special assessment for the collection of the stormwater utility management service fees since 2014. This assessment is an equitable and efficient method of allocating and collecting the stormwater utility management services fee assessed cost among all the parcels in the city. The rate per equivalent residential unit for fiscal year 2022 is $142.27 and is an increase of $6.74 or 5% over the previous year in accordance with our Code of Ordinances. Staff recommends the City Commission approve the rate that has been proposed and approved for publication at the July 14th, 2021 preliminary stormwater utility management fee assessment rate hearing and subsequently advertised for public hearing on August 15th, 2021. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please read the title to the resolution.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the Commission, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Tamarac, Florida, relating to the levy and collection of the city's stormwater management utility fee within the municipal boundaries of the City of Tamarac for the fiscal years beginning October 1st, 2021, approving, confirming, and adopting the stormwater management utility fee and stormwater management utility fee roll, providing for other matters relating to the levy and collection of the stormwater management utility fee on the annual property tax bills, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. We will now hear a short presentation from the Financial Services Director.
Fortunately, the slides would not advance. Levent, can we get some help? Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, again, Mayor, members of the Commission. Christine Kajust again, Director of Financial Services. Before you is TR 13658, setting the stormwater management utility fee special assessment for fiscal year 2022.
Let me need a little help, please.
The fire assessment rate was established on July 14th, 2021, and published by a trim on August 12th, 2021. It was advertised in the Sun Sentinel on August 15th, 2021, and establishes the final stormwater management utility assessment rate for fiscal year 2022. Next slide, please. The stormwater rate is $142.27 per equivalent residential unit, or ERUs, which is $6.74 or 5% greater than the 2021 rate, which was $135.53. The estimated revenue is approximately $6.9 million, and it covers all the costs of providing stormwater, including administrative fees and fees to Broward County for billing and collection. And with that, it ends my presentation. If there are any questions?
Thank you. Not seeing any questions from the commission at this time, I will open up public hearing for temporary resolution number 13658. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? No? Public hearing on this matter is now closed. I will entertain a motion on temporary resolution 13658, please.
I make a motion to adopt temporary resolution number 13658, establishing the stormwater utility management services fee assessment rates for fiscal year 2022.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Villalobos.
Yes.
Commissioner Placco.
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton.
Yes.
And Commissioner Gellan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you very much. We are now moving to temporary resolution 13659. Madam Interim City Manager, please read your statement.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Tamarac has been using a special assessment for residential solid waste collection services since 2013. This assessment is an equitable and efficient method of allocating and collecting the residential solid waste collection services assessed cost among single-family residential type parcels. The residential rate for fiscal year 2022 is $278.75 per residential dwelling unit, receiving curbside pickup, which is no change from fiscal year 2021, and includes the cost of Recycle Bank for recycling services approved by the City Commission. Staff recommends the City Commission approve the rate that has been proposed and approved for publication at the July 14th, 2021 preliminary solid waste collection services assessment rate hearing, and subsequently advertised for public hearing on August 15th, 2021. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please read the resolution.
Yes, Madam Mayor and members of the commission. It's a resolution of the City of Tamarac, Florida relating to the provision of residential solid waste collection services in the City of Tamarac, Florida, approving the assessment rate for residential solid waste collection services for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st, 2021, imposing a residential solid waste collection assessment against assessed property located within the City of Tamarac for the fiscal year beginning on October 1, 2021, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date.
Thank you very much. Now we'll have a short presentation from our Financial Services Director.
Me again, Madam Mayor, Christine Kajus, Director of Financial Services. Before you is TR 13659, which sets a solid waste assessment rate for fiscal year 2022. The solid waste assessment rates were established on July 14th, 2021. They were published by a trim on August 12th, 2021, and advertised in the Sun Sentinel on August 15, 2021. TR 13659 establishes the final solid waste assessment rate for fiscal year 2022. The proposed rate is $278.75 per residential unit, which is the same rate as last year. It will garner approximately $5 million in revenue and provides funding for solid waste collection for single-family residential units to include collection, disposal, and administrative costs. And that ends my presentation.
Thank you. Seeing no questions from the commission, I will open up public hearing on temporary resolution number 13659. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this matter? Name, address, or at least the city in which you live in 3 minutes, please.
Darcy Schiller, KPIT, Kings Point. I'm going to ask the commission to please check with the solid waste collection services about recycling. My understanding is that they do not recycle, and with climate control being what it is, I think that because people want to recycle, they should do so as well, and I would ask the commission to look into that.
Thank you. If there's no one else who wishes to speak, public hearing is now closed, and I will entertain a motion on temporary resolution number 13659.
I make a motion to adopt temporary resolution number 13659, establishing the residential solid waste services assessment rate for fiscal year 2022.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I am not seeing questions from the commission. Please call the roll.
Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Commissioner Placco.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Villalobos.
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton.
Yes.
And Commissioner Gellan.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you. Moving now to temporary resolution 13660. Madam Interim City Manager, please read your statement.
Thank you, Mayor. In 2012, the City Commission adopted the Public Nuisance Abatement Ordinance. As part of that ordinance, the City Commission authorized the use of special assessments for amounts billed but unpaid as of June 1st of the year following the abatement of the public nuisance. The city abated 4 public nuisances between June 1st, 2020 and May 31st, 2021 on 2 properties. The amounts are delinquent as of this date. City staff has prepared the special assessments against each property with unsettled liens, the total of which is $3,582.89, to be collected on the tax bills for fiscal year 2022. This is the 9th year using this type of assessment. Staff recommends the City Commission approve the public nuisance abatement special assessment that was approved for publication at the July 14th, 2021 preliminary public nuisance abatement assessments hearing and subsequently advertised for public hearing on August 15th, 2021. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please read the title to the resolution.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the commission. It's a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Tamarac, Florida, relating to the provision of nuisance abatement on certain real properties by the city in accordance with Chapter 9, Article 2, Division 5 of the city's Code of Ordinances, approving the collection of a nuisance abatement special assessment on real property that has been specially benefited by the city's abatement of nuisances thereon, approving nuisance abatement assessment roll, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. We will now hear a short presentation from the Financial Services Director.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Christine Kajus, Director of Financial Services. Before you is TR 13660, which is a nuisance abatement assessment for fiscal year 2022. The abatement relates to abatement on 2 properties at a cost of $1,535. Per ordinance, all notices were provided. TR 13660 establishes the final nuisance abatement assessment. Nuisance abatement assessment was established on July 14, 2021, published by a trim on August 12, 2021, advertised in the Sun Sentinel on August 15, 2021, and establishes the final nuisance abatement assessment for fiscal year 2022. These are the 2 properties that were abated for a total cost of $3,582.89. And that ends my presentation.
Thank you. Not seeing any questions from the commission, I will open a public hearing on temporary resolution 13660. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing none, public hearing on this matter is now closed. I will entertain a motion on temporary resolution 13660, please.
Motion to adopt temporary resolution number 13660, establishing the public nuisance abatement special assessment for fiscal year 2022.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Not seeing any discussion on this motion. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Gomez,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Gellan,
Yes.
Commissioner Placco,
Yes.
and Vice Mayor Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you very much. This is the first public hearing for establishing the operating millage rate for fiscal year 2022. A second public hearing on temporary ordinance number 2480 will be held on Tuesday, September 28, 2021, at 5:05 p.m. here in City Hall chambers. Madam Interim City Manager, please read your statement.
Thank you, Mayor. In accordance with the truth in millage requirements of Florida statutes, the city is required to announce the percentage difference between the proposed millage rate and the rolled back rate. As such, the following is read into the record. The proposed operating millage rate of 7.2899 mils for fiscal year 2022 is 0.4480 mils, or 6.55% more than the rolled back rate of 6.8419 mils. That concludes my statement. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please read the title to temporary ordinance number 2480, please.
Yes, ma'am, Mayor, and members of the commission, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Tamarac, Florida, to establish and levy ad valorem taxes within the corporate limits of the City of Tamarac, Florida for the tax year 2021, providing for the levy of ad valorem taxes in the amount of 7.2899 mils, 7.2899 per $1,000, based upon the taxable value of non-exempt real and personal property located within the city limits of the City of Tamarac, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. We will now hear a short presentation from my Financial Services Director, Ms. Kajus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the commission. Before you is temporary ordinance 2480. This is the first reading and public hearing to set the tentative millage for fiscal year 2022. Final public hearing will be on September 28th, 2021. The proposed millage rate is 7.2899, which provides for general operations. This rate exceeds the rollback rate of 6.8419 by 0.4480 mils, or 6.55%. The proposed millage rate will support the general operating budget for fiscal year 2022 and only maintains the core services that we already have in place. It provides for 4 additional full-time positions and 3 new events. As with prior years, this has been the case for the last few years. Our capital improvements are being funded by fund balance only. In other words, we're relying on undesignated savings for capital expenditure. I will now hand over to Jeff Streeter, our budget manager, who will provide you more details on the millage rate. Jeff?
Thank you, Christine. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the commission. For the record, Jeff Streeter, Budget Manager. This chart shows a 15 years of city's total taxable value, including the city taxable value for fiscal year 2022 and what we're projecting for fiscal years 2023 and 24. Although it's not in this 15-year window, the year 2009 actually had a city taxable value of $3.88 billion. So what you're seeing here is how long it took the city to climb out and recover from the financial crisis of 2001. The first year in which we got back to that $3.8 billion city taxable value is fiscal year 2019. So it's a decade, a little more than a decade to come out of that. This table shows the budgeted revenue at the various city total taxable values. And you see that the growth for 2021 and 2022 is very similar. We experienced 7.28% growth in 2021, and we got a 7.29% in 2022. One major difference, however, in that growth is that in 2021, 42 million was attributable to new construction, and in 2022, almost double that was attributable to new construction, close to 80 million. What that does is that highlights and calls attention to the importance of redevelopment for the city. This table shows the change that would result from the fiscal 2021 budget in property taxes from the various rates that you're required to calculate for the maximum millage levy computation. We actually added a example rate that is in between the majority vote rate and the proposed 2899 millage rate. Just a simple example, we said, for instance, 7.200 mills. We wanted to show you what the change in the budget level would be at a millage rate of that amount. So you can see that by levying 7.2899, the city would have revenue of $2.234 million more than the budgeted level of fiscal year 2021. And in each one of these instances, this is only levying for growth. This is levying for the growth that you experienced. It's not increasing taxes or increasing the rate. The other rates that you're required to calculate are the rollback rate and the majority vote rate. The rollback rate would yield $213,000, or approximately $213,000 more than the budgeted level of fiscal year 2021. And the majority vote rate would yield approximately $1.6 million more than the budgeted level of 2021. That example rate that we're providing would yield approximately $1.8 million more in property tax revenue than fiscal year 2021. This table shows how the levy is distributed across the city based on city taxable values. And what you see here is that almost 70%, a little over 70%, pay either pay between $0 and $1,000 to the city in total taxes. And that each year that amount goes down, and what you're seeing there is you're seeing the results of new construction being built and coming on at a value higher than $1,000. And you're also seeing the results of properties being sold, coming off Save Our Homes, and going back on at a higher value based on the transaction price. So those two things are what's making more and more properties pay more and more, and less paying between $0 and $1,000. This is a chart that shows where the city of Tamarac compares to 20 other Broward cities when it comes to taxes levied per capita. The city comes in at $486 per capita, which ranks it 8th lowest in comparison to these other 20 Broward County cities. And this is based on 2020 data, fiscal year 2020 data. Here we show where Tamarac would rank when it comes to taxes levied on the median single-family home value. the median single-family home value for Tamarac, based on July 1 certified values, was $127,515. That results in property taxes of $929.57. And that would rank Tamarac the 7th lowest among Broward cities. Of particular note here, 4 cities that are ranked ahead of Tamarac in terms of lowest ranking all have a higher millage rate. And that's because of the principle that all things being equal, you can generate less revenue from a smaller tax base, and you have to make up for it somewhere. Tamarac would be 4th lowest for taxes levied on the median condominium, 4th lowest in Broward County. The median value was $54,380, and at 7.2899, that would result in property taxes of $396.42, which puts Tamarac the 4th lowest in terms of the taxes levied on the condominium median. Actually, look at how much lower the Tamarac's median is compared to the county-wide median on the condos. The Tamarac's median is $54,000. County-wide median is $98,700. So we're lagging far behind the county median in terms of that value, and we're also lagging fairly far behind when it comes to single-family homes. The county-wide median was $193,000. Tamarac was $127,515. This is a table that shows the proposed operating millage rate and how it would either be a decrease or an increase over the rollback rate for all 31 Broward County cities. Of particular note here is our neighbor to the north, Coral Springs, is proposing increasing their millage rate by almost 11% over the rollback rate. The only city that is proposing the rollback rate is Lauderdale by the Sea, and they're going down to 3.3923 mils. And actually, one city, Lazy Lake, is proposing an increase over the rollback rate by almost 50%. Tamarac's rollback rate of 8.419, again, is 6.55% over the rollback rate. And this is how it compares to some of the other cities in Broward County. I just thought I'd give you a perspective of what all the other cities are doing. And this is based on information that was used in the August 21 trim notices. So it's very current. So let's take a look at the impact on a residential taxpayer in terms of levying a 7.2899 millage rate or levying the majority vote rate of 7.1450. What I did here is I chose 2 examples, sort of case studies, to look at. The first case study is the line highlighted with an assessed value of $175,000 and a taxable value of $125,000. I chose that because that's closest to the Tamarac single-family home median price. So I thought it would be a good one to look at. If you look at the third column from the right, that shows the difference between 2021 and 2022 for a property owner that was under Save Our Homes. Now remember, Save Our Homes, the increase is limited to 1.4%. So that property owner would experience a $17.86 increase from 2021 to 2022 if the city were to levy 7.2899. If the city were to levy 7.1450, which is the majority vote rate, that property owner would only see a decrease of 61 cents. In a sense, you could say that this is a regressive tax because some of the major savings don't come in under the majority vote rate until you get into the larger value properties. So in a sense, that could be viewed as a regressive tax. And lastly, the far right column shows the difference, the absolute difference for 2022 between levying 7.2899 and levying 7.1450. That would save that taxpayer $18.47. the net effect of both of those. Now, looking at something on the complete other end of the spectrum, a property with a value of, an assessed value of $500,000 and a taxable value of $450,000, you can see that that person would pay $51.03 more in 2022 than 2021 at 7.2899, $15.19 less if we were to levy if the city levied the majority millage rate, the majority vote millage rate, I'm sorry. And the total difference for that taxpayer in between 2021 for 2022 between the two millage rates, that's that far right column, that's $66.22. And for those savings, for those types of taxpayers, the city would be giving up $653,000 in property tax revenue to save a taxpayer with a median value $18.50, about $18.50, and a person with a property valued at $500,000, $66.22, about $5 a month. This does the same thing, except it looks at it from the standpoint of the rollback rate. I took the same two case studies, the median value and the highest value. The median value results in, the column, the difference between 7.2899 for 21 versus 2022 doesn't change, it stayed the same. So that taxpayer only would save or see an increase of $17.86. However, from the rollback rate, they would get a decrease in 2022 of $39.24 for a total difference of, in 2022, between the rollback rate and the proposed millage rate of $57.10. And then looking at the highest value on the table, which is a $500,000 assessed value and a $450,000 taxable value, that person would have a net difference for 2022 at $204.74. And that's made up of a $51.03% increase from 2021 to 2022 at the 7.2899 and a decrease of $153.71. So the total difference between the decrease of 153 and an increase, of $51 is how you get that $204.74 for a total effect on that taxpayer between levying 7.2899 and 6.8419. And those types of tax savings or differences from 21 to 22 would result in the city giving up $2 million, approximately $2.021 million of property tax revenue. So, what does keeping the millage rate flat for the 10th consecutive year mean for various taxpayers for all amounts billed and paid to the city? Keeping in mind that the median value is $127,515, we looked at a taxpayer with zero taxable value. They'd only pay the assessments. We looked at a taxpayer with a taxable value of $75,000. They would pay property tax of $56.74 plus the $771 in assessments for a total amount to the city of $1,317. And the median value example, that taxpayer would pay $929 in taxes and $771 in assessments for a total to the city of $1,700. Going all the way up to $450,000 assessed value, that taxpayer would pay $3,280 to the city in property taxes plus the $771 in assessments. Now, from the earlier slide that showed the distribution of the levy across the city, we noted that 70% paid between $0 and $1,000 to the city in property taxes. So if 70%, and then from this earlier slide, we also noted that a taxpayer with the median value, which is, at 7.2899, those total taxes are $929. Now, in order to pay $1,000 in property taxes, that translates into $137,000 of taxable value. That would put that example somewhere between the 125,000 and the 150, but closer to the 125. So what I did is I looked at what the impact would be of everything, including the assessments, the change to that taxpayer, and inclusive of the $6.74, if you add the $6.74 to the $17.86 more they'd be paying in property taxes, approximately 70% of the Tamarac taxpayers will pay $25 or less more in total than last year under this proposed city budget. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. Let's look at what the city is contending with. Here is 5 years, the last 5 years of the Consumer Price Index. You'll note that the changes have ranged between 0 and 2 to 3%, 2 to 3% for all 5 years, for all months going back, except in the recent last 3 months where it's jumped to 5 and 5.4 and 5.4, which means the city is going to be paying more for everything it purchases. Everything we do is going to cost more. The August number is not out yet. It's scheduled to be released tomorrow. But if the producer price index, which is a measure of inflation from the viewpoint of the industries that produce the products, is any indication, the producer price index went from 7.8 to 8.3 in August. So that measure is out. They did publish that. So if that's any indication of what we're looking at for the CPI in August, it just keeps going in the wrong direction. What I did here is I took a look at what the city would have foregone in revenue had you decided to adopt the rollback rate for 2017 and held it for 5 years. And based on actual city taxable values from the July 1 certified values of those years, in sum, the city would have foregone almost $11 million of revenue between 2017 and 2021. Now, between 2017 and 2021, the city has brought online a lot of new facilities, a lot of new buildings, a lot of new parks, Fire Station 78, Fire Station 36. Buildings and venues require maintenance. They have to be staffed. Nobody can say for sure whether or not you would have been able to staff those and maintain those without that $11 million, but you can say it would have been a lot more challenging to find a way to do it without that $11 million. So from an operational standpoint, the city would have been challenged had it elected to forego that $11 million. The bottom half of this analysis takes a look at what potentially could be foregone if the city was to adopt the rollback rate for 2022. And it assumes zero growth. So even with zero growth, because that's what we're projecting, the city would forego $10 million, almost $10.7 million, $10.6 million, and that's with no growth. So if there was growth in any one of those years, that number would just grow. And like I said, like I showed before, we don't know what we're going to be dealing with when it comes to inflation and price increases and things of that nature. So at the conclusion of today's public hearing, the City Commission must adopt a tentative millage rate before the discussion of the tentative budget. Again, the millage rate is being proposed at 7.2899 mils, and that provides for general operations. and those various things that Christine pointed out, 3 new events, 4 new positions in the general fund. This millage rate, what's adopted tonight, whatever the tentative millage rate is, will be considered again, and it'll be considered a not-to-exceed rate for the next public hearing, which is September 28th. So it's September 28th, that's the maximum, that's a not-to-exceed rate. You can adopt lower, but you can't adopt higher at the second public hearing. And the budget ad will appear in the Sun Sentinel on Sunday, September 26th, 2021. And that's the end of my presentation, and Christine and I are here to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Gallen? And we are keeping time.
How much is the city getting from the federal government?
Specifically for what, Commissioner?
Is it Biden gave cities across the nation dollars, I guess, directly instead of going through the county. I believe we got 10 million, 5 million in receipt this year, 5 million expected next year.
Are you referring to the American Rescue Plan?
Correct.
Yes, the city did receive 5.4 million in June of 2021 under the American Rescue Plan.
How is that factored into the budget?
That is not factored into the budget for 2022, as it was received in 2021.
But the expected amount for 2022?
I'm sorry?
Are we expecting another 5 million in 2022?
Okay, typically, when it comes to grant revenue, which is not assured, where you don't have a grant agreement that you're going to get it, we do not budget for those until the city actually receives it.
Okay.
It's okay.
That's all I have right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else in the commission currently has any questions at this time, I am going to open this public hearing on temporary ordinance number 2480. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this matter in the audience? Seeing none,
I want to comment, but I have a question. Are you voting on the millage tonight?
the maximum allowable millage rate is what will be voted upon tonight. At the second meeting is what the final millage rate will be. It's potentially to be the same, but if I understand this correctly, and I'll let the Financial Services Director correct me if I'm wrong.
Madam Mayor, tonight you set the tentative millage rate, which requires 2 hearings. So what you vote on tonight is what you'll expect to also approve at the second hearing.
Okay, my apologies. The way I understood the comment is that if we voted on one set tonight, it is the expected amount. However, if we had any changes between now and the next hearing, it could only go lower, it could not go higher. If I'm incorrect, that is.
I'm not sure, I'll defer to the attorney on that one, but I believe we set the maximum on July 14th.
That is correct. At every step of the process, you are establishing the ceiling. You can always, at the end of the process, which would be the second and final hearing, potentially reduce it, but you cannot go above it.
So I was semi-correct, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, to finish the thought is, depending upon what you direct staff and what you vote on the next item, which is the tentative budget, then potentially would dictate changes to the millage rate at the second reading of the ordinance.
Correct. Okay, thank you. So did you have name, city?
Darcy
agreements?
Schiller, Kings Point. I would hope that the commission does accept the increase in the millage rate. We're looking at anywhere, from my understanding and the math that I had done, anywhere between $7 to $30 per property homeowner. And Tamarac, as you all know, needs a lot of work to be done. We need staff, we need staffing for parks and recs, we need street work to be done. And I believe the millage rate will enable that. And if you reduce the millage rate and go back to what it was a few years ago, as per Commissioner Bolton and Jellen's recommendation, we will be at a tremendous loss to maintain the services we have now, which, although good, are not enough. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe, yes, please come on over. Please state your name and at least the city, if you don't want to state your address, and you'll have 3 minutes, please.
Kimberly, Tamarac. Kimberly Hayden, Tamarac. Kimberly Hayden, Tamarac.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh, I just had a quick question regarding the budget. As the Commissioner Gelman stated, if we might receive an additional $5 million from, if we'll receive an additional $5 million, how would that be factored into the budget?
Go ahead and finish asking the rest of your questions.
Okay, because if that is factored into the budget, will we still be held reliable? Because the city would technically be at a surplus based on the budget that's provided if we do get the additional funding from the government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to address that, please?
At the moment, since it's not amounts received, the budget really is a plan of action. It's a plan of action, and we really budget conservatively to budget all revenues that you are reasonably and expect to receive in proportion to the expenditures that we expect to spend. Because we don't have a guarantee from the government for that, we have not factored that 5.4 million into this budget at this time.
Thank you. And if I recall the budget meeting we had in the past about this, the use of those funds for the American Rescue Funds needed to be on non-reoccurring expenses, correct?
There are specific rules as to the use of those funds. There is a portion that you can offset some recurring expenditures from if we use the lost revenue factor. We calculated the lost revenue from that 1 year for the first tranche that we received, and that lost revenue was $7.8 million if COVID-19 had not happened. So receiving the $5.4 million still did not bring us back to pre-pandemic level in what we would have had in terms of lost revenue from half-cent sales tax, from parks revenue, from grants that was rescinded that we did not receive. So it did not put us at an advantage over where we would have been if the pandemic had not happened. So we had sat down, and there was a number of things that we had foregone because we were unable to do that because we didn't have the funding. So we certainly would be coming back to the commission to look at those things that were set aside to see whether or not those funding can be used for that.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who has any other questions on this item? Seeing none, our public hearing on temporary ordinance number 2480 is now closed. I will entertain a motion to set the tentative millage rate.
I make a motion to set the tentative operating millage rate at 7.2899 mils, which is 0.4480 mils, or 6.55% more than the rollback rate of 6.8419 mils.
Do I have a second?
I'd like to make a substitute motion to adopt the majority
City
rate.
Attorney?
Well, let's wait to see whether or not Commissioner Placco's motion garners a second. And then the appropriate thing would be a motion to amend that motion.
Do I have a second on the motion by Commissioner Black?
Second.
I have a second.
Motion to amend to adopt the majority rate of, I think it was 7.1 or whatever it was listed in the,
Should we be voting on that first motion first?
7.2000, is that the one you're talking about?
I think so.
Please actually clarify, because you said the majority rate, and the majority rate has been what they've been, was it the 7.14 or the 7.20?
Through the chair, Levant, can you roll back the PowerPoint so I can reference the right number?
I could just add the majority vote rate was 7.1450.
7.1450.
Seeing that there's no support for that, we will proceed with the motion at 7.2899. Any further discussion on the motion for setting the millage rate at 7.2899? Seeing no discussion, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Commissioner Gelin.
No.
Commissioner Placco.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Villalobos.
No.
And Commissioner Bolton.
No.
The motion fails 3-2.
I entertain a motion for setting the tentative millage rate at 7.200. And I do not have the calculations for how much of the .00 and the 6% more than the rollback rate at this time. So I need some help on that.
Second.
Madam Mayor, point of clarification. So we asked for the millage rate to be passed at 7.2899 mils, but that failed. In a meeting that I had with Ms. Gunn and the finance director, I proposed that the millage rate be 7.200 mils. Not only would we reduce the millage rate for the first time in about 10 years, it would give some relief to some of the residents that need it. I thought about this for a little bit, and looking at the tax bill, I look at it in this way. 3 boxes for regular residents and 4 boxes for residents in Central Park, Manor Park, and Hidden Trails in my district. 3 boxes that I'm talking about for regular residents are the Tamarac box, which is the ad valorem and the non-ad valorem tax, the school board, and the county. So looking at those 3 boxes, the entire tax bill does not belong to the city of Tamarac. A portion of it belongs to the school board, and a portion of it belongs to the county. So looking at Tamarac taxes, we're not necessarily at the highest tax rate throughout the county. But then the 4th box, looking at Central Park, Manor Park, and Hidden Trails, are those CDD fees that are strenuous on the residents. And it's nothing that we can do about it, because that is simply for infrastructure improvements in their community. So when we talk about keeping taxes flat, Madam Mayor, it's not necessarily keeping it flat. We would be getting an increased revenue. And the idea is, as property taxes go up, the millage rate should come down. But we also have to balance that with the CPI. But the issue is that we are spending too much as a city. And I heard the residents, particularly a very eloquent resident from District 4, I think her name is Ms. Melderson. She said that the commission is spending too much money. And there are ways and things that we can look at in the budget to cut. As our residents are getting a lot of money, paying a lot of taxes, Madam Mayor, I think we can provide some relief to them. The reduction to 7.200 is not enough, but I think it's a start. And this is why I want to support 7.200 as a start and move from there, going down for the next couple of years.
So basically, Commissioner, when I was asking for a motion for 7.200 to be the tentative millage rate, your answer is you are making the motion, correct?
I want to clarify where staff got that number, because they
We
didn't.
can have discussion on that, and you can share all that, even though you've already just shared it. So I have a motion on the table for 7.200 tentative millage rate. And Ms. Kajus, if you would, for the record, so we have it clear, if you can help with the mills rate, which is the percentage difference, then the rollback rate, so we can have this motion properly put before the commission.
So the millage rate of 7.2000 is 0.3581 mils, or 5.23% more than the rollback rate.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So Commissioner Bolton, since you were seconding, I would like, now that it's clear on the record, will you please? You've made the motion, and I will now ask for a second.
I already had a second.
Madam, Ms. Kajus, can you give me the numbers again so we can properly make the motion?
The operating millage rate at 7.2000 mils is 0.3581 mils, or 5.23%
I'm
more
sorry,
than
you went a little fast. So 7.200, yeah?
mils, which is 0.3581 mils, or 5.23% more than the rollback rate of 6.8419 mils.
Okay. I make a motion to set the tentative operating millage rate at 7.200 mils, which is 0.3581, or 5.23% more than the rollback rate of 6.8419 mils. Did I do well?
Can I have a second? Just reiterate, please, Vice Mayor.
Yes, second.
Vice Mayor has seconded the motion. I see Commissioner Gellin is ready to speak. Please do so clearly into the mic so we can hear you.
I just wanted to know through the budget office what that dollar value, what that revenue increase would be for the city. I don't know if that's something you can calculate or if you need to go back to a spreadsheet.
One of the slides actually addressed that. I'll just pull up the slide. The revenue increase over the budgeted rate for fiscal year 2021 would be $1,829,372. That is a loss of property tax revenue of $405,585 from the 7.2899 millage rate level. So you would lose $405,585 from 7.2899. That's the
Okay.
difference. So that would be the gap that we'd have to fill in terms of expense reductions.
Okay. And Commissioner Bolton, why are you choosing the 7.20 versus the 7.145?
I believe he shares, so let's just keep everybody's own opinions versus crossover, please.
Pardon me?
You talk about what you want to know, please let's not have a crossover. He shared his opinions of why he's doing it already when he
No.
presented it.
So my question to him is, why is he choosing the 7.2, generating 1.8 million versus 7.14, generating 1.5 million? So there's a approximately $300,000 variance there.
I think, I'm not understanding, are you thinking that the 1.74 is creating more money or less money?
It's more than the 7.14. So I was wondering why he wanted to go with the 7.2 versus the 7.14.
Actually, isn't the 7.2 generating more funds than the 7.1? There's a $300,000, approximately the difference between what is generated with the 7.150 and the 7.2, please.
To clarify, the revenue loss from the 7.1450 millage rate is 653,000.
Okay.
The revenue loss for the 7.2000 millage rate is 405,585.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that
Yeah.
answer? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So is he proposing something new?
No, I wanted more clarification. I was reading that incorrectly, so I'm fine now.
Okay. So the question has been answered for Commissioner Gellin. Commissioner Bolton, you have a new item?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So the 7.200 mills does not drastically, according to the conversation I had with Ms. Kajust, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Kajust, it does not drastically impact us. It does impact us a little bit, but not drastically. It would not drastically impact services, and we wouldn't have to do too much of budget cuts. It is a $400,000 revenue loss. It does give some of the residents some savings, and it does send a message to our residents, including Ms. Mellison, that City Hall listens. I have listened each time to Ms. Mellison. I may not respond because we can't, or we are not, we should not, but I want her to know that we understand. And so that $400,000, staff should be looking at how we could reduce our budget, keeping in mind what residents are asking us to do and what the city commission is asking us to do. And I think in the future, we can have that discussion under sunshine where residents are able to understand just a little bit more how we cut the budget.
Vice Mayor.
The events that we added this year that were not budgeted last year, for this year, what does that equal to?
The 4 events, well, there's 3 events now. There's 2 at $78,000 and 1 at $50,000. The Black History Month is $78,000. Caribbean Heritage Month, $78,000, and Juneteenth is $50,000.
And how much is one Tamarac?
One Tamarac is $91,500. That's what's budgeted
So we
for
can
one.
just cut 3 of those and just stick to one Tamarac and save almost the whole 400 grand that we're gonna be short of, right?
It would be, you'd be well on your way, but you're not there yet. You'd have to look at some other items.
Plus the reduction in salary and vehicles and,
Well, what we did
from
is
the commission.
first what we did is to put together a potential cut list that gets us to 405,900. We looked at first the things that we were directed by staff at the budget workshop to take out. The first thing being the Hispanic Heritage Month, because there was a consensus to take that out. The second thing was all of the commission travel, to change that from a collective account that had $114,400 to $10,000 each in your individual account. So we zeroed out, and I was going to get to this later in the budget presentation. That's one of the changes from the proposed to the tentative, but that's $64,400. So right there, you've got $78,000 and $64,400. Then we looked at what's called last in, first out, things that were added or being proposed to being added to the budget within the last year. And we have those on there. Those would be the program modifications. Some of an example would be the age-friendly community for $50,000. That would be something. And then we looked at what's called non-core services that are not necessary. They're not primary to what the city delivers to city residents. And we have an item of about maybe, I think there's 6 or 7 things on there, maybe 7, that get us to 405,900. What we would do is we would bring you a revised exhibit to the budget ordinance that reduces the budget by $405,900. That's what you'll be presented with on September 28th if the 7.200 is voted on tonight. Does that answer everybody's questions? Good?
Thank you. Commissioner Gallon, this is your second round.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to cut costs. So just looking at the census data from the employee population, we spend $431,000 approximately on the benefit option dollars. So most employees get $1,850 to offset the cost of insurance. That totals $430,000. That's not something that necessarily has to be offered. There's a lot of ways we can, and keep in mind, we will receive $5 million from the federal government for 2021, and then again in 2022. So there's no real loss there. We make $9.4 million in pension contributions for employees, and every year when we give a 3% raise in salaries, that increases the pension contributions for the following year. So that's something that needs to be explored. Employer contributions to the health plan totals $4.3 million. All the time, cities and private companies make changes to employer contributions in order to make sure it's within their budget. So there's a lot of ways and avenues that the city can save money without impacting residents, especially wasteful spending. Through the chair, finance director, we did borrow money, I think you said, from the stormwater fund to pay for Colony West. How much do we owe back on that, and what's our plan to pay that money back?
Currently, the project has not yet been finalized. Last time I looked, the Colony West Fund had borrowed 1.7 million of the 6 million authorized for the project. I beeped.
You're fine.
The expectation is that we would borrow money to repay the stormwater fund once the project is complete.
Okay. So, we don't get complete and accurate information all the time from staff about everything that's going on. And, we're shown certain figures to get us to vote a certain way, but we need to make sure we look at the whole picture before voting on increases to our residents. Thank you.
Commissioner Plaka.
Thank you. It appears that staff has already looked at where this $400,000 would come from. So whatever relief we can give our residents, I think we have to be careful that our services are not changed. Our residents expect a certain level of service. They've gotten used to that. However, I know that people are still suffering from COVID. There are still instances where they are. And while we say it's only $25, $25 is still $25. So I'm pretty comfortable with the new rate, with the $400,000. It appears that we can make that up without cutting services in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gallon. Commissioner Bolton, you have 2 minutes, and then I'll speak.
I just wanted to point out for the record that staff's wish list for a budget cut is not necessarily my wish list for a budget cut. My wish list for a budget cut would be to reduce travel, to reduce cell phone allowances and travel allowances, and the commission salaries, and all of the wasteful spending that the city's residents have come to us time after time to ask us to reduce. Those are the items that I have in mind for this $400,000, so the residents understand that we are listening to them and they're not talking to a brick wall. And at the same time, when we are saving on these, that the residents themselves can have a relief. So I understand that staff has its own list, but I wanted to put on the record again, under sunshine, that my list of cuts are essentially the things that I've just mentioned, as well as the items brought forward by Ms. Milderson. Obviously, I want her to know that it pays to come to City Hall, and when you speak to a commission respectively and honestly, changes can be made, and at least those are the changes that I want to see. Thank you.
Thank you. So basically, in this conversation, we're going overlapping a little bit of a millage rate and a budget. And obviously, to make the decision for the millage rate, there needs to be some discussion on the budget. I am fine with the 7.20. It's something that has been discussed with Financial Services Director and our interim city manager. Obviously, we've had conversations with all of us who've asked what could be done to help in this situation. So it's nice that we're on the same path for some stuff. However, I also want to make sure that it's understood that there are certain things that are mentioned from the dais that may not be completely not truthful, but they're not the full story. And I know you'll bring it out more in the budget item. The issue with the money borrowed from Colony West and how that is being, the maximum allowance, how much has been out there, and also how much is actually being made, and how the revenues are increasing and being able to pay back that loan that the city has put out. So the rate of return on that investment by the city has been a good investment, and knock wood, it'll continue to do so. I will put this right out here. I am in no way, shape, or form in support of cutting anything out of our hardworking employees. Cost of living increases. They work extremely hard. They've worked their tails off during this COVID time, and we are a great city. Our services are great, and the biggest asset our city has are our employees. The most expensive asset our city has are our employees. So in order for our city residents to get what they need and process, we need people to work here. And I pretty much believe that if we start hurting our employees when CPI is going up at 5.4 per month, and we don't even give them the basic 3% that has already been contracted for them, they're going to want to look elsewhere, and we're going to lose some really good employees. And our city is already running at a deficit of employees, in my opinion. We need more employees than we do need the five of us up here. Sorry. So I do not think that would be a smart budget item on our behalf. I think we can get rid of some of the events. People don't move to cities purely for how many events can the city put on and how many events can the city of Tamarac put on so people from all over the place can come. We have great events, we have great parks, we have great facilities, we have great services, and I think that's what we need to make sure we continue to do within our means. And I will support this 7.2000. And when we're going to talk about items to decrease out of that budget, I repeat my desire to reduce the $25,000 discretionary fund. I'd like to go back to the original amount, but if not, some kind of compromise from there to help with that budget, please. So those are my comments at this point in time. City Clerk, please call the roll on the motion of setting the tentative operating millage rate at 7.2000 mils, which is 0.3581 mils, or 5.23% more than the rollback rate of 6.8419 mils.
Thank you. Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Commissioner Gallon.
Yes.
Commissioner Placco.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Villalobos.
Yes.
And Commissioner Bolton.
Yes.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you very much. We are now moving to temporary ordinance 2481. This is the first public hearing to establish fiscal year 2022 operating budget, which would be otherwise known as 2022. Operating budget, capital budget, and financial policies. A second public hearing on temporary ordinance number 2481 will be held on Wednesday, September 28, 2021, at 5:05 p.m. here in City Chambers. Madam Interim City Manager, please read your statement.
Thank you, Mayor. The tentative operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2022 is $221,385,010, which is $33,418,619,000 more than the amended budget of $187,966,391 for fiscal year 2021. The tentative general fund budget, which is the primary fund for providing governmental services such as our contract with BSO, general and administrative services, public services, and parks and recreations, is $71,794,386, which is $276,965 less than the amended budget of $72,071,351 for fiscal year 2021. In addition, the financial policies are included as part of the adoption of the annual budget. These financial policies are an integral part of our long-term financial planning for the city. These policies set parameters for operating management, including establishing reserves for specific purposes, establishing accounts management and financial planning policies, and establishing policies on economic resources. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please read the title to temporary ordinance number 2481.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the commission. It's an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Tamarac, Florida, adopting the operating budget, revenues and expenditures, the capital budget, and the financial policies for the fiscal year 2022, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. We'll hear a short presentation from the Financial Services Director, Ms. Kajust.
Good evening again, Mayor, members of the Commission. Christine Kajus, Director of Financial Services. Before you is TR Temporary Ordinance number 2481, which is our budget ordinance. This is the first public hearing. The second public hearing will be on September 28th, 2021. Due to the millage that was just adopted at 7.200, the presentation tonight is presented at the 7.2899. However, it will be amended to reflect a new total that reduces the budget by $405,000 for our second budget hearing. So this will be as amended for our second budget hearing on September 28th. The budget was developed, it started in January of 2021, where we looked at our capital projects. And between March and June, staff updated and forecasted all our 2022 numbers and the proposed budget for 2022 and our forecast for 2023 and 2024. On July 7, 2021, the budget workshop was held, and the City Commission was provided an update on the proposed 2022 budget. We evaluated our revenue availability, current and future, and we evaluated the future impact on current year's decisions. Sadly, FY22 process was being undertaken under the same backdrop of COVID-19, which is still ongoing. We have a lot of confirmed cases. The millage rate was recommended to remain flat. That is now 7.200. The millage rate was expected to only maintain our current services. We will be able to do that at 7.200. And the capital projects, as I mentioned earlier, are only being funded from our savings, and we have some projects that are eligible for surtax funding. When we did our budget for 2021 and 2022, we had some delays in capital project that was necessary as our austerity measures for the lost revenue that we still have continuing into 2022. And with that, I'm going to have Jeff Streeter give you all the details of the proposed budget.
Thank you, Christine. For the record, Jeff Streeter, Budget Manager. For 2022, we still have some austerity measures in place that we instituted in 2021. Vacant positions are to remain mainly unfilled. Certain positions will be evaluated based on need and available funding as it becomes available. Minimal new positions were approved for the fiscal year 2022 budget. No reclassifications or changes were approved for the fiscal year 2022 budget. And the new positions are 4 new critically needed full-time positions in the general fund. And you heard about those, and the details of those were given to you at the July 7 budget workshop. And there's a soft ban on travel and training that was put in place for 2021. That's staying in the budget for 2022 because we still believe most departments can conduct their training online via Zoom, those types of training classes, not in person conferences. Therefore, no training requires hotel, airline, travel, and all the expensive things that go along with that. As a reminder, the new positions in the general fund are, you have 1 new full-time special events supervisor in Parks and Rec. You have 1 new full-time building maintenance technician in Public Services Facilities Management, and 1 full-time groundskeeper in Public Services Grounds Maintenance Division. Again, details of those were shared at the workshop. I just wanted to mention them briefly. Also there's a position in information technology, technical support services team leader. Now, another thing that occurred at the workshop is it was decided that a position that was being proposed for the Stormwater Management Fund to focus on keeping litter out of the canals be moved up to 2021. So that was removed from the budget. We left the money in there because there's a couple reasons. One is the inflation factor. The other is that we wanted to have enough salary and wages in light of a new union contract that's being negotiated for FPE. This chart shows the changes between the proposed budget and the tentative budget that's before you tonight. Again, Christine mentioned that what we're going to bring you on the 28th, based on the vote you just took on the millage rate, is a budget that's reduced by at least $405,585 on the 28th. So that 221,385,010 is going to come down by 405,585 or more, and that will be reflected in a revised exhibit to your ordinance. So the exhibit that has the details of all the funds will be adjusted, that'll be amended, and that'll be what you ultimately vote on the 28th. So we had some individual changes in the general fund, but that netted out to, we had some increases, some decreases, and I'll give you the detail of those a little later in the presentation. But the net effect of that was no change to the general fund. Kept the general fund the same. The special revenue fund increased. That's an increase due to we got a new estimate for SHIP funding. The SHIP funding estimate went up by $160,212. So we increased the budget by that. That's the only change in the special revenue funds. And then we had two changes in the enterprise funds. One was in utilities. Utilities got a better estimate. Let me back up. In 2021, they conducted a risk and resiliency study. And out of that study came a recommendation for certain projects to mitigate risks. And they didn't have a real solid estimate of what the cost of those were going to be at the time we brought you the proposed budget. Since then, they firmed up that estimate, and they wanted to increase it by about $142,000. The other increase in the enterprise funds is just a change in the Colony West budget, and that's as a result of receiving the budget from Colony West. We didn't have their budget yet when we brought you the proposed budget. Now we do, and it's good news. We can increase it because they're open and they're making more revenue, and it's all good. So some of the individual changes that are in the general fund, we The Department of Revenue updated, well, first of all, we received the July 1 certified values, and that results in an increase in property tax revenue of $17,342. Then the State Department, the Department of Revenue, Florida Department of Revenue, put out new estimates for some of the revenues that they collect and they send to the city. That includes shared revenue, half-cent sales tax, and local option fuel tax. The individual changes there are the estimate that they put out for shared revenue was up a little bit from what we had budgeted in the proposed budget, was up by $83,262. And the estimate that we had for half-cent sales tax, that went down only by I only missed by $3,000. I think that's pretty close. I'm going to take credit for that. So, and then we had changes to the local option fuel tax. That estimate was an increase of $8,110. Other adjustments end up in a net decrease. Revenue adjustments end up in a net decrease of $105,620. The first being a decrease to nuisance abatement fines and fees of $1,417. We had $5,000 estimate in proposed budget, and that aligns with the assessment resolution that you just passed. The Broward County mass transit revenue is going to increase $8,000 per the recent ILA amendment that was brought to commission. I believe it was at the last meeting in August that you acted on that. And Parks and Rec wanted to increase that revenue line item based on that ILA amendment. They asked me to do an increase of $8,000. And just to balance everything out to a net increase of zero for all the changes, the appropriation from fund balance comes down $112,203, which is good news. Some of the assumptions that are built into the revenue projections for the general fund revenues. The current estimates are assuming all revenues from parks programs increase modestly across the board. That's what we had in the proposed budget. But now, as you know, the Delta variant has surfaced. There's been announcements of new cancellations and postponements. So actually, what's going to actually possibly happen in 2022 for revenues collected in comparison to what we have in the budget, they may fall short because we are having more closures and more postponements. But we can cross that bridge when we come to it. So for now, we left the proposed revenues for parks programs and increasing moderately across the board in hopes that in 2022 they can go back to some in-person classes and ramp up in frequency of the events. That's in the number of participants. That would be the hope. Well, let's hope that's what happens. As far as general fund expenditure detail, the first change is, and I mentioned this earlier, is zeroing out the city commission collective travel budget that had $114,400 and exchanging that for $50,000, $10,000 each be budgeted in your individual accounts. That was direction given to staff by commission at the July budget workshop. So that's one of the changes in the general fund. That's a net decrease of $64,400. Then we learned, I was informed by the city clerk that redistricting that was budgeted for 2021 was not going to happen, and they needed to budget for that again in 2022. So we're adding $20,000 to the city clerk's budget for redistricting in 2022. The police BSO budget and public services got together and decided there was an item in their budget that public services could actually do the work for, and it made more sense for them to do the work because they're better equipped to do it, and it's a city, it's technically a city facility. So $70,000 of work that's planned for BSO's facility is being taken out of the police budget, shifted over to the public services budget. So you have a decrease in the police budget of $70,000. You have an increase in public services facility management of $70,000. And last but not least, we have Parks and Rec. And we have a decrease resulting from, it's a net decrease of $50,000, and that results from eliminating the Hispanic Heritage Month event at a cost of $78,000 and increasing their budget for the cost of replacing 4 pumps at the Aquatic Center. In between now and the proposed budget, Parks and Recs got an adjusted estimate from the supplier of those pumps, and no surprise, because of inflation and the cost of producing things and the cost of materials, the cost of those pumps is going up by $28,000. So we had increased our budget by $28,000 to address that. And last, we have the non-departmental department. We're actually increasing the contingency, $94,400, to balance everything out to a zero change in the general fund. That's just an adjustment to end up with a zero change when you compare revenues to expenses. When you net out all the expenses and all the increases and decreases, you actually had $94,000 more you were able to add to contingency, which again, with what we know that's happening with inflation and other things that the city is aware of as far as new union contracts being negotiated, it's a good cushion to have in the contingency going into fiscal year 2022. And I mentioned earlier, the special revenue funds, the change there is an increase of $160,212, and that's as a result of a revised SHIP funding allocation estimate. Good news for the city. And the utilities operating fund, where we have an increase of $142,150. And again, that's that risk and resiliency study that the utilities did, and the individual items that were recommended to mitigate risk. And the Colony, the individual changes to the Colony West budget as a result of receiving their budget from them. We're increasing expenses and operating expenses, $880,694, and increasing contingencies, $11,019. That's as a result of being able to increase revenues, $891,713. Operating revenue is increasing because Colony West is open. And lastly, we have, when you adopt the budget, you also adopt the financial policies and any changes that are being made to the financial policies. What we're changing in the financial policies, and that's one of your exhibits to the ordinance, that's Exhibit B. You'll see that the reserves are updated for fiscal years 2022 through 2024. And what we're doing in the reserves is we're reflecting a gradual reduction to the dedicated economic development reserve based on anticipated drawdowns to that reserve. So we've been told that there's going to be a need for about $1.5 million in 2022. So what we did is we reduced the reserve going into 2023 by $1.5 million, and we were told that another $1.5 million could potentially be needed in 2023. This is for some of the incentive programs that the consultant came out with and recommended. And I believe there might be a desire to do an acquisition, a land acquisition, or some type of land assembly for economic development in 2022. So that's part of that $1.5 million too. So if the economic development reserve is not a replenishing reserve, it was established as a one-time reserve, and it would be reduced as the money was used. So that's why you're seeing a reduction in the economic development reserves, gradual reduction from $5 million gradually down to 2 million by 2024. At the conclusion of the public hearing tonight, for this temporary ordinance, the city commission must adopt a tentative budget. Again, you essentially, the tentative budget now, the Exhibit A will be amended to show and reflect a budget that accounts for the reduction to the millage rate. So that exhibit will be reduced to the total amount of that budget, particularly in the general fund, because that's where the property taxes revenue is. The general fund will be reduced by at least $405,585. And the final public hearing on that budget will be Tuesday, September 28th, 2021 at 5:05. That concludes my presentation, and Christina and I are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Commissioner Gelman? 5.
You don't have to remind me of the time. I know what the time limit
I
is.
wasn't talking to you.
Mr. Budget Director, was this budget completed before or after the termination of the city manager?
This budget was completed before the termination
Okay.
of the city manager.
So you were saying that we have to adjust the budget to reflect the $450,000 decrease, right?
$405,585, yes.
405, yeah, 405, 585. But the city manager, he was scheduled to make $502,937 this year. And with him being terminated, with a salary of $41,911 per month times 4 months, factoring September through December, that's $167,000. And then without him being here for 2022, he's scheduled to make $520,251 in 2022. That salary is gone also. So isn't the $405,585 already accounted for with the city manager being terminated?
Commissioner Gallen, because the position is filled with an interim city manager, there will be salaries and benefits payable in that position because the position is now filled.
Right. But would you need direction from the commission in terms of what to budget for?
Well, currently, we were budgeting at the rate, but depending on what the contract is with the new commissioner, the new city manager will still need to budget for that position.
Okay. But while it's being unfilled, we're saving essentially $42,000 a month.
We do have an interim,
Correct.
yes.
But we also have a vacancy.
We have an interim, and we also have an interim assistant city
Right.
manager, yes.
But as of the day that the city manager is no longer here, we're down 1 employee, correct?
Do you want to answer that, Kathleen?
I think yes, I would say we're down 1 employee right now.
So there is a saving somewhere, right?
Yeah, but it may not be as much as 405,000. Ms. Gunn is now acting as the city manager.
Right.
The assistant city manager's position has now been filled by an interim by Chief Sales.
Correct.
And Chief Anisi has now taken up the role as fire chief, and then it goes down the line where it's
Right.
being backfilled.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
And another question, so we talk about what's being budgeted. During the year of the pandemic, there was not a lot of activity going on. The city the commission didn't travel. Many staff members did not travel. How much money did we save by the limited activity that we had during the pandemic?
If you noticed, in 2020, we still had expenditures that was about from memory server, a little over $2 million more than the revenue that we generated, because we had a drastic shift in the revenue that we collected versus our expenditure. We still continue to operate, but say our half-cent sales tax was cut in half. We didn't have any parks revenue, but we still had to continue operations. So the revenue that we expected to collect to fund our expenditures was not realized. So that's why we always say the budget is a plan of action. So you have your expenditures that you budget for, but it's not really money. It
Right.
is just an allocation.
Right.
So depending on how much revenue you collect, you're able to fund those activities.
Right.
So we had to sit down and we had to do our austerity measures. We had to cut back on travel. We cut overtime. We did took quite a number of measures to keep expenditures down. But even doing that, our expenditures still exceeded the revenues that we collected.
Okay. And then revenues we expect to get from new businesses like Amazon, have we calculated that? Tax revenue?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bolton?
Ms. Kajust, will Ms. Gunn be assuming the salary for Michael Cernich?
That's, I believe, is at the discretion of the city commission?
Okay, so it would be safe to say that if she is not going to assume the same salary and benefits, then there's a savings there, plus there's a savings down the line after all the other people move up.
Certainly. If our salary is lower, there will be some savings. Correct.
Okay. So then we would have to account for that in the budget, and I think that is the point that Commissioner Gellin was trying to make.
Okay.
Secondly, in the workshop that we talked about travel, do you recall that the city manager came up with $114,000 of travel, and then I said to him that number was ridiculous, and pretty much demanded that we discussed it and reduce it at that workshop to $50,000?
I don't specifically remember the discussion, but I do recall us being directed to reduce the travel for the city commission, because you had a number of items in there, including sister city travel and some other things that the commission thought, with the pandemic, that you did not need. So you directed us to reduce the travel to $10,000 per person.
Does any member of the city commission recall that happening?
Commissioner Bolton, the purpose of the polling is for what?
Reclaiming my time.
We're talking about the fact that the budget was
Reclaiming
reduced.
my time.
I have that
But
recollection.
Thank you. You've got one person saying the answer you're wishing for.
Okay.
Please.
Do you recall as well, Commissioner Placco?
I do.
Okay. I looked at do you recall, Vice Mayor, you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I can answer. No, I don't.
Okay. So at least two people pay attention in the meetings. But the minutes reflect that Commissioner Gellin and I dissented. I saw the minutes just today. Madam Clerk, through the chair, can you clarify why that is?
If I may, Madam
Yes,
Mayor.
please. You can stop the clock so he doesn't. Please.
I read through the transcript as well. Commissioner Gellin and you were not in favor of the individualized accounts. But the consensus of the commission was to lower it to $50,000 total between the five of you.
Okay, so do you recall me telling the city manager that $114,000 was ridiculous, too much, and that we needed to reduce it back to $50,000?
If I may, Madam Mayor.
If you like.
That was the initial start of the conversation.
So you do remember me asking that?
Yes, it was the initial start of the conversation for the travel budget.
Thank you so much. Thank you for paying attention. All right, that's it.
Round of applause.
Commissioner Gellin, you're second. Are you done? Okay. So at this point, going to now open it up. It is public hearing on temporary ordinance number 2481. I believe I have Nicole Bachou, who wishes to speak on this item. Your name and the city where you live, please.
Hello, Mayor, Commissioners, Nicole Bachou, District 4 of Tamarac. A month ago, I totally thought that this meeting was going to be educational for me, that I would happily sit in the back and listen to the comments of others and watch the presentations from city staff and learn without need to comment myself. August 31st, though, the commission decided to stray from the leadership of the mayor and fire Michael Cernich with cause. The mayor offered the more prudent course of suspension without pay, a choice I thought all of you would make. Instead, you grandstanded and shouted "I told you so's" and declared a man guilty as if you were judge, jury, and executioner. You commissioners decided to write a blank check, not only to our lawyers, but to Mr. Cernich as well. Today, we do not know if your choice will cost us $200,000, $400,000, $600,000, or more. I do not know how much of a buffer was put into the budget this year for legal fees, but I know that it was written before the whole debacle unfolded, and as such feel that you as the commission cannot in good faith pass this budget without addressing the elephant in the room. And you guys just voted to remove $400,000 from the budget in its entirety, $400,000 that I would have preferred to be set aside for this issue. The citizens of the city, nor any of its employees, should be punished because you chose the least financially responsible option. It should be your perks, which you just cut, that are sacrificed to the fund to help cover the unknown costs for this legal battle. Mr. Cernich may walk free. Guilty people walk without conviction more often than any of us would want. I am here in this hall because I was here in this hall last on the 31st and did not speak up at the time because I did not know how you were going to vote. If I had known and there had been the ability to speak between the end of your debate before the vote, I would have stood up and called you all fools then. I suggest you consider changing your format in the future for important topics like this so that the voices of the people can be heard. You did so for the sports complex, so there is precedence. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Darcy Schiller?
Mr. Bolton, the sobriety of judgment you used tonight actually was well received and astonishing when you said that you would like to see the salaries of your commissioners reduced. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. If everybody took a reduction of $25,000, that would save anywhere from $100,000 to $125,000. And I say $100 to $125 because my understanding is, from what I see, the mayor is the only one who works full-time. The initiative, which is $25,000 each, years gone by, it was $3,000 and $5,000. I'd like to see that reduced by $20,000 each. That would be another $100,000. Mr. Jellin, if you're doing your math, that would be $200,000 to $225,000. Mr. Jellin, I think that you would do very well being a Walmart executive because you like to pay off the executives while taking money from its employees. I think it's appalling that you would even consider taking money from the employees of the city of Tamarac and cut their health insurance and their pension. When they become a senior citizen, Social Security may not exist, so they're going to have something. I would like to see you take the high road and have a cut in salary because, again, you're the one who says Several years ago, this is a full-time job, and I have yet to see you do anything other than go to the commission meetings. And don't tell me you're out there in the community, because I'm out in the community and I don't see you anywhere. Same goes to you, Mr. Bolton, but, you know, if you're going to stand on the high road, and I commend you to reduce salaries and car insurance, not car insurance, but travel payment from $700 a month down to maybe $500, reduce your phone payments, that might save another $8,400. The Juneteenth, the Caribbean Day, the Black History Month, that's $225 right off the. Mr. Jelen, if you're doing your arithmetic, 225 plus another 225, I believe, is 450. There it is, folks. There's your 400,000. I would like to see the commissioners in line with all the other commissioners in this county earn a salary that's commensurate to your job, not earn $50,000 to come to a meeting twice a month. And, you know, I know some of you do a lot of community work, and for that I commend you. But Mr. Jelen and Mr. Bolton, I'd like to see where you're out in the community, because I don't see it. I saw one bike ride, and I don't know what you do. So I would like to see the monies, you know, allocated in a different way. And Mr. Jelen, you say there's a lot of ways to cut costs. Well, you know what? Let's see you do it on your salary. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who did not sign up that wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing that there's nobody else who wishes to speak on this, public hearing on temporary ordinance number 2481 is now closed. I'll entertain a motion to set the operating budget, capital budget, and financial policies for fiscal year 2022 with the understanding that there will be cuts. I don't know if we needed to be working on those prior, or how would you like to do this, Ms. Skajus?
At the proposed 7.200, the general fund budget will be reduced from $71,794,368, I don't know where my glasses is, to $71,388,801. The total budget will be reduced from $221,385,010 to $229,794,25.
Thank you. So I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
I need a
Second.
second. I've got a motion by the Vice Mayor. I've got a second by Commissioner Plaka.
Just a clarification, Madam Mayor, did Ms. Kaju say that she already reduced the budget based on this millage rate of 7.200?
Yes,
As amended, correct?
that's what she basically just read through. She read through the new numbers as if it was on 7.200.
Ms. Kaju?
My word is not good enough. Please confirm.
Definitely not.
Of course. Please confirm.
Yes, the specific items that has going to be cut out of the budget has not yet been determined. However, your total budget will be reduced by 405, 485 to accommodate the 7.200 mills. So the general fund budget that you...
I'm sorry, I got distracted by Ms. Darcy Schiller walking up and down
Okay.
the chambers. I don't think we have a mayor that understands the quorum in the room. Say that
Commissioner
again.
Bolton, you
Say that
are
again,
out
I
of line.
apologize.
You-
Okay,
What-
the
what
specific...
is-
He could not hear you. Please repeat it.
Okay, I was saying that the specific line items have not yet been removed.
Okay.
However, tonight, you are providing your approval at the 7.200 mills for a general fund budget of $71,388,801, which is $405,485 less than the original proposed budget of $71,794,386, which was at the 7.2899 mills.
Okay, that was well said, and it clarified more than the mayor could. Thank you so much.
Is there any discussion on this matter? Commissioner Plaka, are you lit? No? Okay. Please call the roll.
Thank you. And for clarity, it was Vice Mayor Villalobos with the motion and Commissioner Placco with the second?
Correct.
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Villalobos,
Yes.
Commissioner Gellan,
Yes.
and Commissioner Placco.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you very much. I would like to remind everybody that the second public hearing on setting the operating millage rate and adopting the budget for fiscal year 2022 will be held on Wednesday, September 28, 2021, at 5:05 PM right here in Chambers. I'd like to thank the executive team and all the staff that has worked so hard on helping put this budget together and the continued work that you will be doing to help us with the costs that we need to reduce. And to my colleagues for being here this evening. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Have a good night. Meeting is adjourned.